Welcome back to our very special NBL Now Roundtable editions as we get closer to the start of NBL 25. And of course, the NBL Blitz is not that far away as well on the Gold Coast. So this is a really good chance for us to dive a little bit deeper into all of our teams, what we like, perhaps what we're a little bit concerned about as well, and some of the players to watch. And if you watched episode 1, Derek Rucker and Damon Lowry definitely set the table. So the challenge for Brad Rosen and Pete Hooley is to continue that theme and keep the hype up. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello, Jack. How are you? I don't know if I've ever been said to please be like Derek and Damon, but we will do our best.
Looking forward to it. I'm sure you've got some big opinions about some teams, Brad. I'm looking forward to hearing that. And we're getting every sleep is one step closer to tip off, and I'm looking forward to seeing these teams get underway.
And we also made the executive decision to quarantine Brad from the Sydney Kings for this episode as well. You're going to have a whole season to talk about them, Brad, so you can talk about some other teams here.
Plenty of time and never short of a word, so it'll be fine.
Let's start with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, because when we look at their depth charts, and as we are with all of the teams, this is wholesale changes on a whole nother level, isn't it? I mean, this is almost in many respects an unrecognisable starting five from what it was last season.
Yeah, Pete, I'll let you go. I know you're very big on Southeast Melbourne, but then I'll give my opinion next.
Look, you lose an MVP caliber Mitch Creek, and obviously a lot of fans will be thinking, where do we go from here? He's the franchise player. He's been there since the inception of the program, of the club, and where they've been one step short. And we forget, I know they were a bit down on the bottom of the ladder last season, but they were one half away from winning a championship just a couple of seasons ago during that COVID Impact Series where they played at Kudos Bank Arena against Melbourne United. It was Game 3. They were up double digits at halftime. They were going to, whoever won that series would have been champions because Bryce Cotton was injured for Perth. So that we all forget about. But then they've gone and retooled exceptionally well, and I'm very excited about what they could potentially achieve on the offensive end. I do still have some concerns defensively, which we'll talk about. But historically speaking, what's really the key to success in the NBL to winning? Firstly, you've got to be great defensively, which we'll chat about. But then you need a strong point guard, a pick and roll beast, and they've got that in Derek Walton Jr. I couldn't be higher on what Derek Walton Jr. could achieve this season. He's a point god, arguably the best playmaker in the NBL at the point guard position, because we've seen him have success. He led Sydney to a title, won a Larry Sangstock medal. He is an absolute mastermind, and the pieces they've complemented around him, I think, is going to make his job a whole lot easier. And I think they're going to put points up at a freakish level, night in and night out.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, Hools. I love what they've been able to do. I can honestly say, probably for the past 2 or 3 seasons, I didn't have them in my top 4 or 6, depending on what we were asked. But this year I do. I think what they've been able to do in the off-season is great. I think the pick and roll is exactly what you're talking about. And for me, they got the greatest big in the league on the pick and roll in Jordi Hunter. He was outstanding. I mean, Jack, we laugh about it being a Sydney King, but we got to see him so many times last year. And I think that's one that the Kings let go that they didn't want to. And I think that he will be outstanding for them. Of course, we forget about that. You know, the bloke called Nathan Sobey, not a bad player as well. So we add him to the equation. I think Angus Glover, there's nothing better than Angus Glover having something to prove. And after what happened last year with what went down in the Kings and him not playing, I love what they've been able to do. Their imports is obviously the question. That's what we can talk about all the teams. And if your imports are rolling, you're going to be good. But the Australian content on this, Ben Air, love it. Matt Kenyon on the defensive end. It is going to come down to there. Do I think they're going to win it? No, not right now. But time will tell, and I really love what they've tooled up.
Well, considering you've both addressed the defensive end of the floor, let's just talk about it right now, because I think we all agree that they could easily put 100 on the board a night. No question about that. But how do they stop the opposition from putting 104 on the board?
I think they'll find a way to do it, to be honest. And strangely enough, we might actually have an anomaly in a season where it might not matter too much just because of the offensive firepower they have. You mentioned the imports. Joe Wieskamp is actually a very good defender as well. He's going to be a very good two-way player. But Wieskamp and Matt Hurt are 2 elite knockdown shooters. You think about the spacing with those 2 in the corner, with Derek Walton Jr. running the point, doing it at the best level possible. And then you have Nathan Sobey, playmaker on the side. And as Brad said, the best rolling big man in the league, Jordi Hunter. And there's points for days. So it actually might get to a point where defense doesn't matter. But I still think that they'll be able to figure that out eventually. Angus Glover's going to come in and lock up defensively. Matt Kenyon's going to do that. Malik Lewis is going to do that, the exciting next start. So they've got pieces who can come in and hold it down defensively. But I'm excited because I do feel like there's one time we have a team where defensively it might not matter. They're just going to be so fun to watch on the offensive end.
Yeah, I agree with you. To answer the question of what you're saying, Jack, is I think they've got the pieces to make a really nice defensive team because they know what they've got to do. We're also forgetting the head of the snake here, and that's Mike Kelly. Now, he knows defense non-stop. This guy is the coach of this team. He's a former NBL Coach of the Year. He knows what needs to be done. He knows how to get it done on the defensive end. I like that they have Matt Kenyon, Ben Ayre. These guys get after it. Tom Podanovic is a great sign. You need locker room guys and good guys that, put the presence out on the floor. You add those others to it. If they get beat, they got that beast in the back line, in Jordi Hunter that can block shots and do it. So I'm not as worried about them defensively as what I think other teams are. But the problem they've got to be careful is that they're not just thinking too much about the offense and not worried down the other end.
So what Nathan Sobey are we going to get here? This is the big question I've got about amongst this entire roster. Because the Nathan Sobey that we've seen for the last few seasons at Brisbane has had to be the guy, or certainly felt like he's had to be the guy at all times. Whereas you look at this, he doesn't need to be. So can he adjust?
I think he can definitely adjust, and I think he's going to enjoy that role, to be honest, because he's still going to be one of their leading scorers, one of their main offensive weapons. But a lot of focus is going to be on Derek Bowen Jr., the head of the snake, and then the other defenders have to take an extra step or two towards Wisekamp, towards Matt Hurt. If Nathan Sobey gets a running start, it's a bucket. So that's the excitement. And what I'm getting here from we haven't seen too much of them yet. We know preseason's rolling around the Blitz, but I'm getting again, Melbourne United vibes from 2018 where Casper Ware just destroyed it in the pick and roll with the pieces he had around them. You have Chris Golding in the corner, you've got an elite shooter in the corner, but you've got athletes. It was Casey Prather for United. They've got Nathan Sobey there, and you've got a rolling big man. It was Josh Boone, the Melbourne United, and it's Jordi Hunter. These pieces are keys to success. And if everyone just buys in a little bit here and there defensively and Nathan Sobey adjusts seamlessly, which I think he will, I think this team has a chance to do something really special.
Pete, I'm going to go with you on this, and that's the thing, if he adjusts. Now, he's been the man in Brisbane. He's done a great job. Didn't have the tools around him, you could argue, than what he's got now. So it's the question is, and I love what you're saying, Jack, which Nathan Sobey are we going to see? If we're going to see that guy that is all team, all in, whatever it takes, man, this team is going to go far. Now, if it's the Nathan Sobey that wants to just put points on the board, and I'm not suggesting that's what he wants, I'm saying if it's that type of guy, that's not what this team, in my opinion, needs right now. It needs the guy playing at pace. I love his athleticism. I remember when he started in Cairns watching this kid, and I'm commentating a game going, who is this guy? And he was like a development player. And he's just been like that the whole time. I just want to see the Nathan Sobey that went to the Olympics. I love him. I think he's an outstanding player, and he could easily be a top 3 in this team, and I think he's got great tools around him, but I just hope he does it. But there's 3 games, I should say, that I do not want to miss. Him versus the Brisbane Bullets. Oh, please, just let me watch that game in peace.
That first home game in Brisbane at Nissan Arena is going to be fascinating. Last one on the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. I think we're all pretty clear that they will improve or should improve. If you go through the rosters, like we all have, you've got, and in no particular order, Isaac Humphries, Keanu Pinder, Will Magnay, Cam Oliver, Sam Froling. Is Jordan Hunter ready to hang in that company as a starting centre?
Yeah, I'm going to jump into this one, and the answer is yes. This guy has played at an elite level in college, and he's played in some very, very big games. It would not surprise me to see this guy in the Boomers. He is big. He is strong. He is just every team needs a Jordan Hunter in it. The way he screens, the way he rolls, the way he defends. He doesn't need the ball. He's not one of these guys saying, give me the ball, let me get it. He will do whatever he needs to do. I don't know if Matt Hurt's going to really help them in that presence. So I see what you're saying. If you get a Jordan Hunter injured or he's not playing to his degree, that is going to be a big problem with the way the bigs are. But I have got the absolute faith in Jordan Hunter. I've watched him grow into the player that he is today, and he's elite.
I actually don't think he's going to have to do too much in that regard because we know what he does well, right? He moves his feet very well. He's a great ball screen defender. But looking around the rest of the league, all those names you mentioned, Jack, there's not too many post up, throw the ball in, go one-on-one players around. Everyone else likes to put the ball on the floor. Sam Foley's probably the closest to it, but he likes to play out of the high post where Jordi Hunter can slide his feet. Cam Oliver, again, likes to put the ball on the floor. Keanu pinned the ball on the floor. Then you've got guys like Marcus Lee, Will Magnay, who will do it occasionally, but not a heap there. What they do comes in other areas of the game. So out of all the other years, had this been a year where it was maybe a JLA type, those guys they'll roll the ball in consistently and let them go one-on-one, that's probably a different story. But looking around the other 9 teams, there's no one really who's going to be a back to the basket, consistently feed the rock and say, you have to try and just post up one-on-one, which is going to help Jordi Hunter and the Phoenix.
So the consensus is that the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix should be one of the big improvers of NBL 25. What about the Brisbane Bullets? Justin Schuller has had the first off-season now to build a team more to his liking. He pretty much inherited a team when he took over last season. What are our first thoughts about this lineup when we look at it?
I'm worried, Jack. Yeah, I'm worried. I'm not convinced with what I've seen at the moment. I've watched a couple of pre-seasons games. I think James Bateman has the potential to be good, but I'm worried. I'm seeing up and down on this. And some minutes he's good, some quarters he's good, but others he's not. Casey Prather, look, if we get, and Pete, you know Casey very well, obviously, if you can get the Casey Prather that we saw win championships, that Brisbane make the playoffs, right? So to me, I think a lot of it revolves around these type of players, but the big one is Dengadell. Now, he has been really dynamic in the couple of games that they've played. You know, the guy's played NBA, he's been playing in France, and he's been able to do it. If we see the Illawarra, Dengadell, I don't like what they're going to do because I think the ball's going to have to go through him. Like Tyrell Harrison, Josh Bannon, we know Rocco's going to even improve more, but that's not enough to take you, in my opinion, to that top 4, top 2 thing. I don't have them in my 6 at the moment. They could surprise me, but they worry me a little bit.
I understand your concerns. I think a lot of people would echo that. On Dengadell, I actually think that he's come in with a different mindset than he did when he joined the Hawks. When he joined the Hawks, it was off the back of some fringe NBA stuff. He wanted to get back to the NBA, was clearly put a lot of pressure on himself to do that. And the way he played didn't suit the NBL at the time. Just from the preseason games we saw, he's already adjusted completely different, where he's not settling for outside jump shots. He understands he's putting the ball on the floor. He's using his athleticism, his length. He took a dribble, one dribble coming off the right keyway, and it finished above the rim through contact. That kind of stuff is going to really help him. And he's going to be a really important piece. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder because everyone's going to talk about what happened when he played for Illawarra. And you have to, right? That's the last time we saw him in the flesh was when he played at Illawarra. He had tough. I remember one of the games he was 0 of 15. He kept trying to shoot out of it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a different Dengadell. My concern with the Bullets is Casey Prather. I think they put a lot of eggs in the Casey Prather basket, which they had to. Because if they do, as you said, Brad, if they get 2018, 2017, that era of Casey Prather, if they get 80% of that, I'm with Brad that they're going to do some damage. We still see him trying to get back off this knee injury that he stayed out for 2 years. Last year was an audition. He played 7 games. But what Casey Prather are going to get in round 1, I think, is going to determine what happens with the Bullets.
Am I being too negative here to say, though, that what you're saying, Pete, and you know Casey very well, obviously, but 2017, 2018, like that was a long time ago. Is that concerning that we're talking about a guy from 6, 7 years ago and he's obviously aged since then?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think that's part of it. You've got to understand that he has aged. He has gone through a significant knee injury, sat out for 2 years. So as much as it is getting his body right, the fact that he stayed in Australia, had the off-season, was continuing to be with the Bullets staff and doing all of that, getting back to that is probably impossible. But how close can he get to that and how impactful can he be? Because he's still got plenty left in the tank, age-wise, I'm sure health-wise. But there's no doubt that even talking to the Bullets, Stu Lash was saying, Justin Schuller, they need Casey to step up and have a massive impact, and that's what they need to have success. James Bateman, you mentioned, Brad. I'm really high on what James Bateman can do. I think during this preseason, he's kind of reserving himself to figure out, where do I fit? And I think after this preseason's finished in the Blitz, he'll have a conversation with Justin Schuller, and Justin Schuller's going to be like, you're our guy. Yes, Casey's here, yes, Dengadell, Josh Bannon, but you are our guy. More so than just playmaking, we need you to put points on the board, and I think he can do that. He's another elite playmaker. And if he does that, and if Casey shows that helps and can get up and about, then I think Brisbane can do some damage. But until then, we'll have to wait and see.
Josh Bannon, Brad, We saw glimpses last year, and the glimpses that we saw when he was at his absolute best, you go back to that last round of the season, look really, really good.
Yeah.
He's got an injury at the moment, so there's a bit of a disruption to his preseason. Is he ready to take this next step up and compete with some of the best four men in the competition?
Can someone remind me that this kid's only been there for 1 year? It's unbelievable. It's like he's a veteran and played 50. When I think of him, and I may get some credit, he just reminds me of like a Tony Ronaldson. Just like as in the way he plays, he's inside, he's out. He doesn't really need the ball again. One of those players that you can just say, you know, when we need you, we get it. He crashes. He's just every team would want one of him, and you want a teammate like that. Yeah, he'll go to another level. Obviously, he went, over it and played in the States in that summer league, and that would just give you extreme confidence. Doesn't matter how many minutes you're playing there. The big one for me that I'm trying to work out is with him and Tyrell Harrison and Rocco and Deng Adel. I'm just not sure. Like, you could put Deng in the three. Tyrell's playing really well at the moment, but Rocco needs minutes. Like, he's going to be here for another year and gone. So I don't love the fact that they play too big. So I'm really interested to see how Justin's going to do that. And that could then affect Josh's minutes. But I think Josh is one of those players that he is just going to play so hard and so strong that Justin's going to have no choice but to play him because he's that good.
Peter, we're looking at the benches, and we have been looking at benches at the various teams. If you look at the Bullets bench, you've got Zikarsky backing up Tyrell Harrison. Keandre Cook is one of their imports who there's been some good things coming out of Brisbane about the way that he shoots the ball. Mitch Norton is tried and tested. We know what we're going to get with Mitch day in, day out. Isaac White, Torrey Smith-Milner, Sean Bairstow returning from college. The backups look okay.
I think we're also forgetting everything that happened last year, what Justin Trill and the Bullets did. They wanted to retain that core, right? That's why they signed them last year, beginning of NBL 24, on 2-year, 3-year deals for the sake of, once we get through this, we're shifting the program, we're shifting the culture in this way. Next year and the year after that, we're going to be a whole lot stronger. I do think we're going to see a much better Brisbane team, a club that we saw last year, and they continue to make those strides forward. And a lot of that is on that key core retention. Isaac White, we're going to get from him when he gets the opportunity. But Keandre Cook, we haven't spoke about. This is a guy who's come in with the reputation as a two-way player. They've already got Sam McDaniel, one of the best defensive wings in the game. You're sliding Keandre Cook for some minutes there. He shot over 40% from three last year internationally. You put that 3-and-D type player in. If Josh Bannon is currently injured, when he gets fully fit, I think he's going to be taking another step forward. He played in the NBA Summer League and played really well in some flashes for the Clippers. They do have all these little pieces here to succeed. We've also already seen in the preseason that health is one thing. They've had a fractured hand, I believe it is, for Josh Bannon. Casey Prather's been out with a hamstring. They're all expected to get back around round one or before round one, but they can't afford any significant players missing time, so they can try and build this thing going forward. But I expect James Bateman, again, I expect him to lead the way for them.
Jack, can I just jump in there? And the thing I worry about Brisbane so much is if you look at the last few titles that have been won, there's not a one-man show. Right, you look at Tasmania, last year, you can go Milton Doyle, you go Jack McVeigh, Magnay was great, Crawford in that final, wow. And you go back to the Sydney Kings couple of championships and you had, you had your Cooks and you had your Derek Walton, or you had all these guys, and it was always 1, 2 or 3. That's what worries me about Brisbane. I don't know if James Bateman can be that man, but let's say he is. Who's the next guy and the next guy? And I think all of these players are great role players and they are fantastic, but I'm just not sure who's that next 2 and 3 guy. Maybe it is Deng Adel. And if Casey Prather can do that, but geez, it's a lot to ask.
I think it's going to come down to whether they're scraping into the top 6 or whether they're comfortably in the top 6. To me, it comes down to Casey Prather.
Yeah,
that's the only thing it comes down to.
Yeah,
are they scraping and clawing to fall into a play-in spot, or are they going to be comfortably one of the top 6 teams throughout the season? All of that, I believe, is going to depend on what Casey Prather we get.
Yeah, fair call.
We were asked to do all of our way too early predictions. I had the Bullets taking out the wooden spoon. Am I being too harsh?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, personally, I had Cairns, which is just stupid because you never underestimate 40.
Dumbest stay away.
And when I got that, I was like, oh, man, I went who's not going to be on the bottom? And I didn't know whichever other way to go. So, but they were there for me as well, Jack. I just think it's too much to ask. And the one thing I worry is if they got enough players to, because, if you're not as talented as other teams, what do you got to do it out of? Energy and grit. right? Now, cans are going to come with that every day of the week, out of all of these things. So I don't think you're wrong, and it does worry me.
I think the way when you're trying to figure out that question, answer that question, is you're looking for what reasons can a team fail? And that's when if you're trying to say, and okay, Casey Prather's health, yes, understandable. New faces, James Bay, Keandre Cook, how do they adjust it in actual NBL season, the way it's officiated, the way it's played? We haven't seen that yet, so there's a question mark there. What's Rocco like in his year 2? Is he going to take the jump we expect? There's a question mark there. What Dengadell are we going to get? So there is a lot of questions about this Bullets team going forward, so I understand why you rank them where they were.
We spoke about the winds of change that have swept through southeast Melbourne. Well, they've swept across the Tasman as well, because the New Zealand Breakers look completely different to the team that we saw last season under Mody Mayor, except for one key plank. Parker Jackson Cartwright returns, third in the MVP voting, all NBL first team. That's a huge inclusion for them to come back. But as I say, new coach, new roster, it's a completely new look Breakers.
Yeah, I'm so bummed that we don't get to see Mody because I love him on the sideline. I just want to shout out to Derek Rucker for putting PJC at number 7. We'll never forget that, Derek, so thank you for that. I'm sure the whole of New Zealand thank you as well, D-Ruck. Look, I like what they've done. You know, I know that, you know, they've retooled. I mean, you look at this team. I'm looking at the bench a little bit as well. Like, I like what they've done with the starters, but you go Sam Meninga, you've got, you know, Karim Lopez. I'm really looking to see that next star. You know, Sean Bairstow, what can that guy give? Mitch McCarron will probably come off the bench and look at what he can give you. So I'm really excited to him. I love what they've done. Jonah Bolden going there. I know he's super excited, but I'll tell you what, Mojave kid, I can't wait to see this kid play. I loved him in Cairns. Didn't really seem to have the fit in Adelaide. Gone over and done what he's done at the G League. Played 18 games, about 30 minutes a game. You know, just over 11 points. Did well. I'm so excited to see him. And a little bit like that Dengadell, Casey Prather thing you were saying, Pete, if he has that year that I think he can, sky's the limit for New Zealand. I love him.
You can never underestimate players who are excited for a new opportunity, for a change of scenery. And that's exactly what I think we have here with the Breakers. Mitch McCarron has had 3 years, and talking to him and just seeing the way he plays and the things he was struggling with, he gets to put all that behind him now and gets to go and play for a player's coach who's fresh out of the game. Prather Copeland, fresh out of the game. He is a fantastic basketball mind. Now, he might not be Mody Mayor on the sidelines. He might not be like that. But again, I think what he will build over time is relationships, because he's fresh out of the game.
Yeah.
This is fresh out international bucket getter. If you haven't heard about Prather Copeland, go and look at his highlights, because that man was an absolute mastermind.
30th pick in 2007. The man can play.
And all of that combined with, he understands now, he's been in all these situations that, say, Mitch McCarron, Harvey King, Jonah Bolden have been. He didn't retire and come back like Jonah, but he's been, when you look for a new change of scenery like McCarron and Mojave, what that means, the chip on your shoulder, how you navigate that, how you get the most out of that. He's going to bring that out of them, I think. But some reports I've heard the last couple of weeks, 2 players, Karim Lopez, a 17-year-old who's not draft eligible until 2026. There is some talk that he could start at the 3 as a 17-year-old. Wow. That's how well he's been performing in practice. I don't know if he will, but to have that option and what he could do, he is an international superstar. There's a reason he's a top pick in the 2026 NBA draft.
Yeah.
We get to watch him for 2 years. I'm excited to see what Karim Lopez can do. But Freddie Gillespie, I've been told on good record, watching all this previous stuff when he was signed, he already came in with a strong defensive reputation. He could win Defensive Player of the Year. His rim protection, his ability to get back up off the ground to block multiple shots in a possession, what I'm hearing and what I already know about his game, it excites me, because when the New Zealand Breakers made a championship series, yes, they had Terrell Brantley, but they did it on the back of an elite point guard in Will McDowell-White and an elite defensive big man who's a lob threat in Derek Pardon. They've got PJC. We know what he can do. And now they've got Freddie Gillespie. That combo as a starting point, we'll build all these other pieces around. Like, they're going to surprise a few people. I understand the concerns. They've got one of the toughest schedules I've potentially ever seen in the NBL. But if they makes them all come together, they build it all up, they buy into Prather's system, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
So, Brad, with that said, it looks like we're going to see Jonah Bolden play a lot more at the 4, with Freddie Gillespie obviously playing as the 5. How do you think he'll adjust to that?
Oh, he's really excited. I'm really excited as well because on Friday night they're playing the Kings and I'll be at that game watching them. So I know that he's really excited. Obviously, he was pretty pumped to play under Modi, but then with the change, loving what's going on over there. And for him, it is that fresh start. It's I love what you just said, Pete. I don't want to say it's a chip on the shoulder, but it's like, yeah, I want to go here. I want to be ready and I want to. And having this coach come in, he's been in San Antonio, obviously the 76ers connection with Jonah. So I really like what it's going to be. Jonah has the potential. I mean, we've seen it and we all know. The upside on Jonah is phenomenal. And obviously, you know, deep to my heart, I was there when the kid was literally born. So I've known him for that long. But I just know that he is such a player that if we get the best out of Jonah Bolden, New Zealand will flourish, and he can shoot the three, long block shots, dunk, and he is an utmost professional. So really excited to see him this year.
Maybe you should. We talk about getting the best out of New Zealand. It was nice before we started recording, Brad, for you to list PJC ninth on your own. That was you. I didn't really do that. That was just put that on the record that you rated ninth.
Well, speaking of that, we may as well just put this out there. Derek Rucker's top 15 launches on Monday next week. So you'll see. I have seen the list.
Can you tell us, is PJC 7th, yes or no?
No.
Is he higher?
I'm not going to comment. All I will say is that I checked the studio when we started recording in case he wasn't there again, PJC, because last time we mentioned his name, he was going to jump the commentary desk. So he wasn't there.
You and I were there, and I can tell you, we did not hold back. Mate, you can come over. No problems, PJC.
We just jumped off the sinking boat straight away, didn't we?
It was him. It was him.
Speaking of Parker, so that was their biggest priority, was to lock him away, and they have. Year two,
always harder.
It doesn't always, yeah, exactly, Brad. It doesn't always pan out the way that imports would like it to. They can sometimes have a stunning year one and come back to the pack a little bit for year two. So what does PJC do differently this time around?
Well, if I'm New Zealand, I don't want him to do anything different. I want him to be exactly the guy that he was last year. And it is very difficult. The one thing I will say, though, you know, he's a very, very mature baller. So it's not like a young guy that's come out, played his first year, everything's great. You know, he went to Turkey. He averaged 20-plus points in the NBL last year. He is the utmost professional. I don't see him really changing his game at all. Do I think it will go backwards? No. He's a baller, and he wants to prove Derek Rucker again wherever he's got him.
I think he's going to be okay for the sake. Like Freddie Gillespie, that pick and roll lob threat makes it a lot easier for a smaller guard in PJC. Jonah Bolden, ability to spot up and knock down the outside shot. I feel like he'll be standing in the corner, filling those roller spots. But the one for me, which is weirdly enough going to impact a lot of PJC, is Matt Mooney, new import Matt Mooney. If he struggles to adapt to the NBL, or if he's not hitting shots, all of a sudden the space gets smaller for PJC and makes his life a little harder. So how does he adjust to the NBL is going to be a big thing. And then if he's struggling, who steps into that knockdown shooter role? You need to create space. We'll go back to the Phoenix. Why do I think Derek Bolden Jr. could win MVP? He's going to have that much space to do his thing, and he's unbelievable doing that even with limited space. They need to create space for PJC, even though he can get to all these spots himself, but that's where the question mark is.
The other thing I'll add to that is I felt sometimes last year because of Will McDowell-White, those two, which I love them both separately, I felt sometimes it was like, is it your go? Is it my go? Where are you? Now, I know Will was out a lot, but they just didn't. I was expecting that to be different. This time, I think it's a little bit like Bateman, what you're saying. PJC, here's your engine, mate. There's the keys. Go do what you want. We'll work off you. And I think, if anything, he's going to get better.
Well, that's where winning comes from, right? When you look at the NBL, is okay, we're going to have our main guy or our main two guys, and how do we make their life easier?
Yep.
Tassie went and did that. Okay, we've got Milton Doyle, we've got Will Magday. They probably a luxury. They had Jack McFadden as well. We need a bit of a scoring punch to help these guys take pressure off. Let's go and get Jordan Crawford, did the heroics in Game 5. Sydney King, we've got Xavier Cooks at the time. We had Jalen Adams. What pieces can we put around to make our stars' life easier? That normally leads to success, and I think that's what the Breakers have recruited.
Good call.
So with that said, I mean, it's pretty glowing what we said about the Breakers. Are either of you willing to have them as a top 6 team?
Oh, yeah, I had them in mind. Yeah, I think that the upside on them is way too good. And the one thing that they have that a lot of teams don't have is just sheer out talent. and talent wins games, and I think they'll be okay. I do like them on the defensive end because they've got some grunt, and that's where Sam Meninga, I think, can help them a little bit as well. So, no, I like them. They're in my 6.
I have them finishing in the 6. I don't have them starting to make their move until after round 10. I think there's going to be growing pains early with a new coach, with a new system, with the schedule. They've got the NBA games in there. They come back. I think they have 4 or 5 double headers in a row. I think they're going to struggle early, but I think they'll find their feet, they'll find their niche, and I think they'll come home with a wet sail, and who knows what they can do. You know, you don't want to face a New Zealand team if they're hot at the right time.
Yeah.
As always, you two have been absolutely brilliant. That's everything you need to know now about the Breakers, the Phoenix, and the Bullets as we head towards NBL 25. Gentlemen, thank you so much for both of your time. It's been great to have you on.
Cancel the Blitz and start the comp this weekend. See you, boys.
I want some good weather, Bradley.
This has been NBL Now, our special roundtable editions. We are going to be back very, very soon. Liam Santamaria and Alice Kunik will be in, and we'll be talking about Melbourne United and the Cairns Taipans.